Hi lovelies, you're welcome to my channel. Let's make a baggy pant. So I've gone ahead to cut what will be enough to cut the front part, and is my hip circumference divided by 2 plus extra 10 or 12 inches. Okay, now I've gone ahead to fold the front pattern by 2, and then I'm going to come down by half of an inch, and then I will rule a straight line. This line is my waist line. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is to minus 2 inches for the band of this pant trouser. It's a baggy pant trouser. Okay, now minus the 2 inches on the line that I have here, that is my waistline, and then I will come down to 12 inches for my crouch point. My crouch point is 11.5 inches because I'm making a baggy pant. That's why I added extra half inch, making it 12 inches. So now I'll go ahead and mark this very well. The next thing I will do is to divide my hip circumference by 4. So after dividing it, I got 10 and quarter inches. I'm going to mark it on my crouch line, and then however big I want this palazzo to be depend on how many inches I add from this point here. So I added 2 inches. If you want yours to be too big, you can make use of 3 inches. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on my hip line and also my waistline. Now after doing that, I'll go ahead and connect the point like so. The next thing I will do is to come out from this point here by 3 inches. Now if you're on a bigger size, please come out by 3.5 inches. Okay, now from this point here, I will come up by 1 inch like so, and then I will connect the crouch shape. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is just to connect this all the way to the hemline in a pencil wheel, not that pencil. Okay, now after doing that, I'll go ahead to cut this, leaving half of an inch for stitching allowance. Okay, so after doing that, I will slit the side open, and this is all for the front piece. The next thing I will do is to minus the 2 inches on my waistline for my band, and then I will take the full length of my baggy pants. So the full length for me is 43 inches plus 2 inches for the hemming allowance, making 45 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark the point there, and then I will cut out the excess. And this is all for the front piece. I'll go ahead to cut the back piece. Now for the back piece, I will make sure that I added extra about 7 inches to what I used to cut out the front piece. Okay, and then I'll make sure it has more length than the front piece. Okay, because of the crouch extension. So please guys, when cutting on your fabric, always look at the design placement so you won't make the same mistake as mine. Okay, because I placed this material upside down. So I noticed it while I was sewing the pant trouser. Please take note of this. So I'll go ahead and make sure that the two sides of the back piece and the front piece, they are aligning. Okay, just like this. And the next thing I'll be doing is from the crouch point of the front piece here, I'm going to come out by 2 inches. So I'm going to mark these 2 inches here, also on my hip line here, and also here. Okay, now after marking it, I'm going to extend the crouch line like so to the back piece, and then I'll connect the back crouch line like so. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to add 2.5 inches from this point here. So I'm coming out from the front piece, I'm extending it with 2.5 inches for the back piece. Okay, around this area, I'm going to mark this all the way to the hem line. Now I'll go ahead and connect to the points together like so. The next thing I'm going to do now is to work on the waist of the back. Now I'm going to connect it like so because I don't want my bumps to be showing. That's the reason why we normally extend the crotch length for the back. Okay, so now I'll go ahead, connect the waist of the back like so, and then I'll go ahead to cut this out. You can extend it by 1.5 inches. Okay, now I'll go ahead and cut the side out as well. So while cutting, I'm going to leave half inch stitching allowance. And this is all for the back and the front piece. The next thing I'm going to cut is the pocket. Now I've gone ahead to fold my fabric by 2, and then for the wideness of the pocket I'm making use of 9 or 8 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this out like so. Now after cutting it out, I'm going to fold it again by 2. Okay, after folding it by 2 again, I will just open this up. So I'm going to be having 4 pieces of this pocket, 2 for the front, 2 for the back. So after I'm done doing this, I will proceed to sewing the pant trouser. Now I'm going to face this right side facing the right side. This is the front piece. I'll face it to the right side of the fabric facing the right side of the fabric, and then I'm going to sew the crouch point with half of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the same thing for the back pattern. I will face it the right side of the fabric facing the right side of the fabric, and then I'm going to stitch the crouch area with half of an inch. Now after stitching the crouch area with half of an inch, this is the front part and also this is the back part. Okay, now after stitching the crouch area, I'm going to open this up and I will be working on the pocket. Now for the pockets, this is what I have 4 pieces like I said earlier on. I'm going to align this together like so, and then I will make use of 11 inches for the length, and then about 8.5 inches to 9 inches for the wideness. Now I'm going to come down by half inch for the stitching allowance, then I will mark 7 inches for the pocket wideness. Now I'm going to notch that 7 inches point on the pocket like so. So I'm going to be making use of 2 for the front, 2 for the back. Now I'm going to be facing this right side facing the right side. I'm placing the pocket right now. I'll place this right side facing the right side of the front pattern. Okay, and then I will stitch up to that 7 inches point that I notch on the pocket. So please watch closely what I'm explaining. Okay, so after doing it, I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other pattern. Okay, for the other front piece. Now this is it for the front piece. I've gone ahead to stitch it to that 7 inches that I notch on the pocket. Okay, now I did the same thing for the back pattern as well. The next thing I'm going to do now is to face this right side facing the right side like so, and then I'm going to stitch the pocket first. Okay, I'm going to stitch the front pocket and the back pocket first. So I'm making sure that the two sides of the front pattern and the back pattern, they are aligning properly. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and look for that 7 inches point that I stitch up to. I'm going to kiss the front pattern and the back pattern together like this. So I'll make sure that the two joining stitching, where the stitching stop, they are aligning. Then from that point like so, I'm going to close the pocket like so. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side of the pocket. Okay, now after I'm done stitching this is what I have. You can see that I've not stitched the side of this trouser. It's just the pocket that I went ahead to stitch. Okay, now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to close the side of this pant trouser. Okay, now I'm going to make sure I place this very well. Then from that 7 inches point that I notch for the pocket, okay, where the stitches stops, I'm going to stitch this all the way to the hemline with same half of an inch. Okay, I'll repeat the same process for the other side. Now after I was done closing the side of this my baggy pant, as you can see, I repeated the same thing for the other side as well. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to place the pocket on the front pattern. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that the two sides they are aligning. Okay, just like this. Okay, and then I will place the pocket to the front piece. Now I'll go ahead to stitch it down. I will repeat the same thing for the other side as well. Now after doing that, I'm going to be hemming the down of this my baggy pant. So remember I left 2 inches for the hemming while I was drafting this. So I'm going to measure that 2 inches point here, and I'm going to notch it. Okay, this will help me to know where to fold this up to. Now after doing that, I'm going to head over to my sewing machine and do it. So whatever I did here, I'm going to repeat for the other pant leg. Okay, so after folding it like this, I'll go ahead to stitch to the other end. Okay, now after doing it, this is what I have after I was done hemming the down of this my baggy pant. So I repeated the same thing for the other side as well, for the other leg as well. Now after doing that, I'm going to be closing the crouch area, but I'm going to join the two crouch point like so, to measure if any one is longer than any one here, to measure if I have same length for the trouser. Okay, now after measuring it, I have same length for the trouser. I'm going to go ahead now and stitch this with half of an inch. Now after stitching this with half of an inch, this is what I have. Now the next thing I will do is to turn this to the front. So if you notice, I've gone ahead to stitch down the pocket to the front piece, and this is my pocket. Okay, this is how lovely my pocket came out. So you notice that the back crouch is longer than the front crouch, which is totally okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to start working on the band. We are totally through with this part of this tutorial. Okay, so this is my rope, this is my band, and this is my pant trouser. So for the wideness of my rope, I made use of 1.5 inches, and then I folded it and made use of 60 inches for the length. Now this is it for the band. How I got what I needed for the band was I measured the round waist of my pant baggy trouser. Then after measuring it, I have 51 inches, and then I had to measure 51 inches for the band, that is for the wideness. Okay, after measuring the 51 inches, I added extra 5 inches allowance. So I'm going to be cutting the excess, but that will be when I want to sew, when I'm done sewing it. And I made use of 5 inches for the wideness of the band. Now on fold, I'm going to be having 2.5 inches. Now what I need for the band is just 2 inches. That half inch is for the stitching allowance. Okay, now I'll go ahead to look for the middle point of my band. Okay, so after looking for the middle point, I'm going to notch this out. Now it's because I'm making use of my eyelet. Okay, that's the reason why I'm going to notch the middle point of my band. Now as you can see, it's on fold, my band is on fold. The next thing I'm going to do is to, from that middle point, I will come up by half inch, which is for my stitching allowance. Then I'm going to divide what this remaining 2 inches that I have here, I'm going to divide it by 2, and then the 1 inch closer to the half inch stitching allowance, I will still divide it by 2. Okay, and then from that point here, I'm going to come out from one side by 1 inch. This is where I'm going to fix my eyelet. Then from the other side by 1 inch, I'm going to fix my second eyelet there. Now this particular point here, this is where I'm going to fix my eyelet. Now I'll go ahead and explain this again. From this point here, I'm going to minus half inch for my stitching allowance, which I already did. Then the remaining 2 inches for the band, I divided by 2. That 1 inch closer to the stitching allowance, I divided by 2. Again, I got the middle point, and then from the middle point, from one side I mark 1 inch, the other side I came out by 1 inch. So I'm going to be placing my eyelet on those points. Okay, now I'll go ahead and open up from one side of the band. Please, I'll open up this a little bit hole to fix my eyelet. If you notice, I am doing this on one side of the band. Okay, now after doing this, this is what I have. Remember, from one side of the band. Okay, now I'll go ahead to fix my eyelet. After fixing my eyelet, from the middle of the front pattern on the wrong side, that is where I'm going to place the middle of my band, but the side that has no eyelet. Remember that the front of my band is facing the wrong side of the front piece on the joining of the front. Okay, so I'll go ahead and place the notch part like so, and then I will sew round meeting the back crouch point. Okay. So after I was done sewing this all around with half of an inch, as you can see, so the eyelet part is going to be coming towards the front part. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and close the band. Okay, so I'm just going to place this like so, and then I will hold this in place to close the band. Okay, so just watch closely what I'm doing here. I'm trying my best to explain this part very well. And after doing that, I will go ahead and hold this together like this. Okay, and then I'm going to stitch this down straight like so. So after stitching it, this is what I have. I'm going to cut out the excess. So it is better it is excess than the thing will not be enough. Okay, now go ahead and stitch back that side. So I couldn't get the elastic I wanted to use for this tutorial, but if you're making use of elastic, just go ahead and cut out what will be enough for your waist roundness, and then after cutting it, place it like so. So open it like this, then you join it like so, and you make sure you stitch on top of this very well. Then you go ahead to place it like so. Then you fold with half inch on your band, then you top stitch it like so. You sew all round. Okay, but I'm not making use of band again, I'm making use of rope. So because I'm making use of rope, I'll go ahead to fold the band by half of an inch, and then I'm going to close it this way. So I'm going to be passing my rope first. Another way you can do this is after closing your band, you pass your rope with your safety pin, but I like doing it like so. So after passing my rope like this, I will go ahead to turn this over to the back, and then pass the other side of the rope to the second eyelet like so. So after passing this out, I'm just going to tie this in place so that it will not go out of place. Okay, now after doing that, this is what I have. I'll go ahead to my sewing machine. I'll fold the band by half of an inch and then close this on top of the joining of the band and the pant trouser itself. Now this is what I mean. I'm going to be placing the rope inside the band. I will make sure it will not affect me stitching on top of the joining between the band and the pants trouser, that is the baggy pant trouser. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do this until I get to the middle of the front. So at this point, lovelies, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, comment and share. Okay, so after I'm done sewing this to the front part, this is how it's looking like. Okay, so if you know closing your band with the rope inside will be difficult for you, go ahead and close the band first. Then you can use your safety pin to pass through your thread. Okay, now this is all for this tutorial for this baggy pant trouser. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much. If you are new into this family, thank you very much, and I appreciate. I will see you in my next video, but for now, bye and thanks for watching.